Late last year, a well-known leaker claimed that Apple's ongoing trend of making its Pro model iPhones thicker would continue with the iPhone 18 Pro Max. At the time, it sounded like 2026's flagship could become the chunkiest iPhone yet, pushing even further into battery brick territory. That idea immediately sparked concern among some fans who already feel that recent Pro Max models are approaching the upper limit of what's comfortable to hold and carry all day. Now, however, a fresh report is painting a very different picture, and it may come as a relief to anyone worried about an even bulkier Pro Max. Instead of growing again, Apple may be freezing the design at its current dimensions and choosing to refine what's inside rather than dramatically altering the external feel. According to a new leak, the iPhone 18 Pro Max will measure 8.75 mm thickness, which is exactly the same as the iPhone 17 Pro Max. In other words, Apple may hold the line on thickness this year instead of pushing it further. If this information is accurate, the iPhone 18 Pro Max will not be thinner, but it also won't be the thickest ever device that some earlier rumors had predicted. For users who are already used to the feel of the 17 Pro Max, the upcoming model should be very familiar in the hand. This is especially interesting when you look at the recent trajectory of Apple's Pro lineup. Over the past few years, Apple has slowly shifted away from the ultra-slim, ultra-light designs that used to define the iPhone as a status symbol of thinness. Both the iPhone 17 Pro and iPhone 17 Pro Max were thicker and heavier than their predecessors, the 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max. That move continued a gradual but clear trend. Apple is increasingly willing to trade a little more thickness and weight for better battery life, improved camera systems, and enhanced thermal performance. Back in November, leaker Instant Digital suggested that this trend would intensify with the iPhone 18 Pro Max. Their claim was bold. The 2026 Pro Max would not only be thicker than the 17 Pro Max, but would also weigh more than 240 grams, making it the heaviest iPhone Apple has ever shipped. Crossing 240 g would be a notable milestone and would likely cement the Pro Max as a device aimed squarely at users who prioritize power and endurance over minimal size. At that time, Instant Digital didn't provide a specific thickness measurement, just the assertion that the depth would grow again. This vagueness left plenty of room for speculation. Some observers assumed we might see a small but noticeable jump, enough to support a larger battery or more advanced camera components. Others wondered whether Apple might be preparing an entirely new design structure that demanded extra internal space. Now, however, another respected leaker, Ice Universe, is pushing back on that narrative with more concrete numbers. In a new report, they state that the iPhone 18 Pro Max will have a depth of 8.75 mm, identical to the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and thicker than the 8.25 mm iPhone 16 Pro Max, but crucially not thicker than the current generation. This means that, from a purely dimensional standpoint, Apple appears to be stabilizing the physical profile of its largest flagship rather than continuing to bulk it up year after year. While Ice Universe hasn't commented on the weight of the device, their dimension leak suggests Apple might have decided not to increase the overall bulk any further this year, at least in terms of thickness. The company could still make small changes to weight depending on materials, battery density, and internal structural changes, but the outer shell is expected to remain effectively the same thickness as the 17 Pro Max. For many buyers, the difference between 8.25 and 8.75 may not be a deal breaker, and for those already carrying a 17 Pro Max, a repeat of 8.75 will feel instantly familiar. Once a phone comfortably fits in a pocket and can be used one-handed for basic tasks, tiny variations in thickness and weight tend to matter less than overall usability. Design preferences differ from person to person. Some people crave the lightest, thinnest phone possible, while others actually like the solid, reassuring heft of a Pro Max class device. For power users in particular, battery life usually ranks much higher on the priority list than shaving off a fraction of a millimeter from the chassis. All-day or even multi-day battery performance, sustained gaming without rapid thermal throttling, and reliable camera performance under prolonged use are more important than having an ultra-thin profile that looks great in photos but struggles under heavy workloads. Larger batteries and more robust thermal solutions generally require more internal volume, and that almost always translates to either increased thickness or a more efficient internal layout. This is where Apple's engineering priorities become clear. The company has been aggressively optimizing its custom silicon, display technology, and internal architecture to get more performance and efficiency out of roughly the same physical footprint. Each generation allows Apple to make subtle trade-offs, retain thickness but increase battery capacity, maintain weight but add more advanced camera components, or slightly shift the internal layout to enhance durability and heat dissipation. Earlier rumors have hinted that Apple is planning to boost the battery capacity of the iPhone 18 Pro Max in a meaningful way, while giving the standard iPhone 18 Pro only a modest upgrade. If those reports are accurate, Apple may be choosing to maintain the 8.75 profile of the 17 Pro Max while optimizing internal space to squeeze in a bigger, more energy-dense battery. That approach would let Apple deliver longer screen on time and more reliable performance under load, without demanding additional compromises in external design. Rather than slimming the device down and sacrificing endurance, Apple appears to be aiming for what many Pro Max buyers actually want: a workhorse phone that can handle heavy gaming, intensive photography and video recording, constant social media use, and productivity tasks without needing a midday top-up. For heavy users, gamers, content creators, and mobile photographers, that trade-off is likely welcome. A slightly thicker, longer-lasting phone is far more attractive than a thinner device that dies in the middle of the day. The story doesn't stop with dimensions, though. Ice Universe's latest claim adds an intriguing twist to the narrative around the iPhone 18 Pro Max. They say the reason Apple isn't prioritizing a slimmer device this year is that the company's attention has shifted elsewhere, specifically to its first foldable iPhone. In the same Weibo post, the leaker suggests that Apple's attention and energy this cycle has been focused on what many are calling the iPhone Ultra. This name is being informally used for Apple's rumored foldable iPhone, though some reports refer to the device as the iPhone Fold. Regardless of the name it ships with, this product is expected to represent a completely new category for Apple's smartphone lineup, sitting above even the Pro Max in terms of innovation and likely price. Launching a foldable iPhone is a huge technical and product challenge. Apple needs to perfect a number of complex systems before it can release such a device at the scale and quality level it demands. That includes designing a highly durable hinge mechanism that can withstand years of daily folding and unfolding, engineering a foldable OLED display that resists creasing and damage, optimizing software to seamlessly adapt between folded and unfolded states, and crafting a battery design that allows for strong endurance in a split, flexible form factor. On top of that, Apple must ensure the overall form factor feels premium, robust, and practical in real-world use. A foldable iPhone cannot simply be a tech demo. It has to meet or exceed the expectations of users accustomed to the solid, monolithic feel of traditional iPhones. That level of refinement takes time, testing, and a massive amount of engineering resources. If Ice Universe is correct, Apple has chosen to allocate significant engineering and design resources to this foldable iPhone Ultra, which may explain why the iPhone 18 Pro Max is seeing more incremental physical changes rather than a sweeping redesign this generation. The company might be deliberately letting the Pro Max mature and stabilize in its current form, while pouring its most ambitious efforts into the new foldable flagship that could redefine the top end of the iPhone family. The leaker also has a reasonably solid track record when it comes to early iPhone dimension leaks. While no source is flawless, Ice Universe has previously provided accurate measurements of upcoming iPhones well ahead of their official announcements. Their history with other flagship smartphones, particularly in the Android world, further reinforces the idea that they have consistent access to pre-release design information. Combined with the absence of strong conflicting reports and the clear strategic importance of a foldable iPhone to Apple's long-term roadmap, this latest 8.75 claim appears credible. Taken together, the current picture of the iPhone 18 Pro Max looks something like this. Thickness is expected to remain at 8.75, exactly matching the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and thicker than the iPhone 16 Pro Max's 8.25 frame. Customers moving from the 17 Pro Max should experience a nearly identical in-hand feel. Earlier rumors of the 18 Pro Max becoming even thicker and surpassing 240G may still hold for weight, depending on battery and materials, but at least one reliable source now disputes a further increase in depth. That suggests Apple is trying to balance any internal upgrades without noticeably changing the external profile. Apple is likely prioritizing battery life, sustained performance, and internal hardware improvements over chasing an aggressively thinner chassis for its largest Pro model. This aligns with the usage patterns of Pro Max buyers, who tend to favor endurance and capability over extreme portability. Significant design and engineering focus is reportedly going toward Apple's first foldable iPhone, often referred to as the iPhone Ultra or iPhone Fold. That device appears to be absorbing much of Apple's cutting-edge design energy, potentially limiting big physical changes to the conventional Pro Max this generation, while Apple prepares an entirely new form factor to sit above it in the lineup. For buyers considering an upgrade, the emerging consensus is that the iPhone 18 Pro Max won't deliver the ultra-slim profile some may have hoped for, but it also may not become the unwieldy brick earlier leaks implied. Instead, Apple seems poised to refine the existing Pro Max formula, maintaining its current thickness, likely improving battery life and making under-the-hood enhancements, while channeling its boldest hardware innovation into the foldable iPhone that could redefine what a top-tier iPhone looks like in the years ahead.